All right, folks, welcome back to another edition of the Demand Wars. Let me set this up for you now. He is the CRO of Celex. It's an outbound sales lead gen for hundreds of SaaS and service companies. They provide the top 1% of outbound sales talent on demand. Here's what I love about this guy. Now, he grew his previous company title after posting for 365 days straight on LinkedIn in a row. Result 600K in monthly recurring revenue. It's light work for a guy like this. He's closed $203 million in revenue since 2020. He's a hip hop head who lives in South Dakota. He sold country
Yep.
music radio ads, flip phones, and he's definitely sold more N95 masks than you. Please help me welcome to the Demand Wars, Mr. Steve Schmidt.
Yeah, that was a
What
great
up,
intro. I'm like,
Steve?
who's this guy? Who's this guy he's talking about? Like, I got to meet this guy. I was like, whoa, this is. You got to look back and go, man, this is just like 3 years. It's been wild. It has been wild. It's
It's
good to
been
be
a
here.
it's been a particularly wild ride for you, Steve. You shared about
Hmm.
how in some of your content 5 years ago, Steve, you
Yeah.
you applied to over 200 AE positions.
Yep.
Couldn't get
Yeah.
hired.
And I couldn't get hired. I did the same thing actually just before I started Title too, because I was in this interesting conundrum where I think, especially right now, with the ecosystem of call it layoffs and companies getting lean out of necessity, and I won't go into why. We all know why, right? Like this is here we are. But yeah, I had gone back and applied because I'm like, man, I got to get a job at a SaaS company, and nobody would respond to me.
Mm,
And I didn't really know anybody, and the Scott Leases of the world weren't returning my calls then, and so I just decided to force a seat at the table, and I started posting every day. And I will say this I hired a company at first, Balaji, to do it. It
mhm.
was Jake Dunlap and Scaled, because they had an offering. I said, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I
Right.
want to be. And I literally said this. I said, I want to be bigger than Chris Walker.
Mm.
And they said, why Chris Walker? And I said, well, he's the biggest person I know, so I want to be the biggest. And they said, why? And I said, just because I can, so why not?
Yeah.
And then like that post, first day turned into the second post. And then it was 4 months until the first lead came in. Lead, not deal, first lead.
F-
And
four
then from
months.
there, it like something happened. 4 months. And then it's been about 2 to 3 a day ever since. So over 1,000 leads, 28% of them closed cumulatively across the team, have come from LinkedIn over the past year and a half
That's
to
crazy.
2 years now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Steve, you're highlighting something that a lot of B2B marketers struggle with. For those who have an understanding that demand capture is a necessary portion of your marketing mix, but you've ideally got to build demand, create that demand. You went 4 months before a single
Hmm.
lead came in. What made you keep going? A lot of businesses, a lot of executives will look at a new
Hmm.
program 1 month in, 2 months in, and if they're not seeing pipeline, it's a wrap.
Yeah. That's a mistake. Now there's certain things, right, that I would say, yes, if you're doing paid ads and you're not resonating with that particular persona set, right, then yeah, you want to switch it up. Don't let that bake out at 25K a month over time. But little things like creating awareness takes time. And I didn't even know what awareness and demand were at the time. Honestly, you would have asked me. I said, I have no idea.
Mm,
And a demand, it doesn't mean, hey, I'm demanding that I get this too. They're just saying, like, I'm raising my hand, I'm coming in, I'm ready for the conversation.
mm,
Your awareness is now getting me to say I'm demanding of your time, right? So I want to have a
mm.
focused hour conversation. And what we do in particular, like, it's not a spot solution, right? Where someone goes, oh, I'm going to buy this. Like, if I'm going to go buy Gong, which is commoditized now in a category of 200 people, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting conversational intelligence. And with Celex, what do I get? Well, they say, well, I hope I get more meetings. I hope I get more deals. Oh, great. We do too. Right. But what we didn't know early on, Balaji, which is interesting, is when you're in this business, and whether it's
Mm.
Refine Labs and demand gen or us on the lead gen side, is early stage, you're taking customers, I don't care what people say, that you probably should, who don't have a minimum viable product, who don't have a firm understanding of the market, who have no place being in business, really, right?
Mm.
Because their offering is at a standstill. Like, nobody's demanding it. There's no awareness. There's not in a space or
Right.
specific problem it solves. They've got a 7-page thing. Here's everything we do, and we go, Now, we don't do that anymore. We won't work with those companies, not because we don't think they're good people, but because we've got the other side of our marketplace, Balaji, where we've got 374 SDRs who are ready and primed to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And they get assigned to one or two accounts, right? So they're our customer too. Because if we don't have interesting clients for them to go work on and do outbound
Hmm.
and get trained and enabled on, like they're going to say, screw it, I'm out of here. I don't want to do another AI or cybersecurity campaign, right? Not that those are evil, but they're very technical.
Got it.
And so it's been a very interesting journey, especially in the services line. And now that we have a SaaS product in the underbelly, I think you'll see some really cool things where we say, you know what, if you want to just do this yourselves and just use our software,
Right.
great, you can have that. And then our team can get stood up next to yours anytime if you need some extra pipeline. But it's been a big evolution, really, because I think when you're solving market problems, and let's look at the last 2.5 years, we've had a lot of different problems to solve, whether that be remote and disrupted workforce, and now it's financial with the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think coming out of it, as I said this last night, is the beautiful thing is I think quality is going to reign supreme in the next 5 to 10 years. And a little bit of that is that the millennial and zillennial stage of they're finally coming in saying, I'll only work for a company if it's high quality.
Mm-hmm.
And I only want to be a part of something like that. Growth is crazy, cool, but like who wants to grow when you're unprofitable? Nobody, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants
Yeah.
that. It's very
Yeah.
unstable, as we've
You,
seen.
Steve, you have mentioned publicly the large impact that Aaron Ross's predictable revenue book
Yeah.
has had
Yeah.
on the industry, both on the sales side and the marketing side. I think the book came out about 2011. It
Yep.
chronicles the success, the rise of Salesforce, and how they were able to build a new model. Could you share a little bit
Yeah.
about what worked, what was so compelling about predictable revenue behind Salesforce's growth, and how the industry
Mm-hmm.
subsequently adopted that model?
I think it's great that the industry adopted it. The only problem is not every company is Salesforce, right? And so where we're seeing it now is, 12 years later, people are coming in and just considering this. And they come in and they say, we need an SDR strategy. And I usually say, why?
Mm-hmm.
They said, we need more top of funnel. I said, what else have you considered? Well, we worked with another agency. Okay. We worked with 3 other agencies. We failed at every one. I said, well, why are you here then? Like, what do you think we can do different? Our phone is not any different. We do not have the bat phone sitting under here where it magically rings and gets connected, right? I think that with predictable revenue, what it's done is the important part of the equation is, oh yeah, that's nice. By the way, they were Salesforce. And so when they
Mm-hmm.
grew, it was necessitated that they had this model of hyper growth, coupling SDRs with AEs. And now you have a very rich funnel process, right? Very like top of funnel is here, mid funnel's AE, closing's AE, and then we just do it again. And a lot of people are saying, well, we can't even do it once yet, do it again. And I would say, well, then you should put your money and resources into something else. You should look at your product. You should look at your product marketing positioning. You should look at something, because if you properly did that, you would still need SDRs, but you might need SDRs to act on product-led growth. You might need them to act in the freemium model where they're looking at behaviors and upgrading people with analytics. But it does not mean that the SDR model is working for everybody. I would say if anything, it isn't for most people. And that's probably shocking for people to hear me say. Like, if you're in a growth stage company, Series A and on, and SDR is absolutely for you, unless you're a PLG company, then it's a different kind of SDR. But predictable revenue in my head is will be officially broke by the year 2025, and nobody will be using that philosophy. Not because it wasn't good. It served its time and purpose. A decade and 2 years is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that predictable revenue will be completely overhauled. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm the one who helps write the book that does it.
Man, that's a lot right there. I got to take a beat.
Yeah.
I got to let that one breathe, man. Steve,
Yeah.
you talked about how you've sought to help sales professionals with Title,
Mm-hmm.
with Celex as well. But in growing both of those companies, it seems like you incorporated some elements of building brand awareness, building
Mm-hmm.
brand affinity. I mean, you're on TikTok dancing. I'm like, this dude got some rhythm now.
Yeah.
Steve can move
Not
now.
bad.
Like you're sharing a lot of content. You've got some sales education content. You've got some content that honestly drew me to you as a person and a personality.
Mhm.
why would a lead gen company actually practice other sorts of programs in order to grow?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I cold call too, and every day I usually make between 10 and 25 cold calls. So, I mean, it's not that I'm not actively doing it myself, and I'm coaching my team on it. And then I do a little bit of training with that too, right? So I have a group of like 12 students twice a week I meet with, and something I'm doing for top 1% of our academy. So it's like lead gen all day. But I think that we'd be lying to ourselves that by talking about lead gen, we're not practicing demand gen,
Mm, mm,
because
mm,
we're actually simplifying it by saying, actually, the only effort is to have conversations that are meaningful about it, open, transparent, exposing the flaws. Because once you start to do that, people start to trust that
mhm,
it might be a solution rather than assuming that it's the only way there, right? And I think that when people walk into our appointments, they tend to say, okay, these guys are going to try and close me. And quite frankly, no, the opposite is we're trying to unqualify you as quickly as possible to say that you're not the right fit. And I think a lot of that awareness on the front end is what we're talking about now, is to get that out there is okay, right? For people to say, like, this probably isn't for you, because then they go, well, what is it?
mm,
You know,
mm,
people are more interested in learning about what might not work for them. And it's almost like they get challenged. They go, you know what? I bet it will work for me. And you're like, great, okay, fine. Like, this is fine. As long as you have patience, the ability to know that messaging is probably part of, if not the biggest part of your problem.
mhm,
And then the framework that, I was forced to about a year ago, Balaji, when we were sitting there rubbing our heads going, oh my God, we've got 78 clients now. They've all got different messaging. Some are ABM, ABS, some are very high volume. What do we do? And
mm,
that's when I developed the 3P methodology that says this can work into anything. It's 3Ps. What is the problem or pain you're solving specifically? Proof that you've done it for somebody who's just like me. And then talk about me, not you. And then
yeah.
persuasion is shut the hell up and let me persuade myself that this is something that could fix my pain or my problem. And if we do that and facilitate it right, it doesn't matter what you say or don't say. There's no script. It's just acknowledging that the human brain thinks in those, the first thing I think when you show up on a sales call is not, I wonder if I'll buy this. It's, I wonder if they're telling the truth at all. And we've
Yes.
done that to ourselves in sales, right,
Yes.
Balaji? So how do you establish some credibility? Is just be utterly and openly honest with them and say, this isn't for everybody. It doesn't work all the time. We guarantee nothing. Any other questions? How does it work? I'll walk you through it. Is there anything special? No, you just got to do it. Like, that's the thing, is everybody tries these 4 months, 6 months, 3 months. It's like, well, geez, those diets don't work either. So unless you're willing to fail a little bit, I'll give you a good example. So our own team, we were talking about that, the inbound is different than the outbound ICP, right? CEOs, CROs, CMOs come in typically.
Mhm, mhm,
Well, for a month and a half, we had our team spinning their wheels going outbound. We're going, man, our outbound doesn't work. Our outbound doesn't work. Well, we revised the messaging, targeted VPs and directors. And then this is what I did, and I wish more companies would do this, is my title is Chief Revenue Officer. I picked 1,412 of the top CROs that I want to work with and messaged them with the subject line CRO to CRO. And then I wrote a very pointed message. And then I said, why doesn't our CEO do that? CEO to CEO. And then start going out to your peers in other organizations. Your rev
wow.
ops team can completely take care of it. Speak to them not only in a language they know if it's coming from another C, whatever O you are, that you know what the hell you're talking about. It doesn't mean my
Mhm,
team isn't going to meet with you and be the ones there, but I wish more organizations would look at prospecting as not from necessarily the SDR, but the SDR, and this is where I said that changes. I would take a team of 5 data growth specialists all
mhm,
day who just combed over data and looked at messaging versus people who are actually acting. Why? Because data is the most valuable thing in our pocketbook right now.
mm,
And yet most people have data, they have Gong. And I go, well, why don't you perform that? I don't know. Well, you don't use any of it because it's not only a full-time job for one person, it changes every day.
mm,
And so how do we look at those data sets and start to understand the behaviors that are happening? Well, we've got 78 customers we've got to do it for every day. And so it's just a very interesting space. And so I get the luxury of saying I see a lot of this every day, is I'm telling you the truth. I'm probably seeing
mm,
more of it than anybody else I know
mm.
because of the nature of my work.
Wow. Wow. That is really interesting. Okay, so Steve, I'd love to sort of pivot a little bit here, and I want to
Yeah.
take advantage of having your big brain in the conversation with us. We're gonna jump into the demand wars and play some of these games.
Yes.
So here is the first question, and hopefully you've had some time to think about this because we're putting you on the spot. The first one we're
Yep.
gonna play is desert island marketer. Desert island marketer. All right. So you're on a desert island, Steve. You've got a budget of 1K per month.
Yep.
You got to go to market with that. That is virtually
Mm-hmm.
nothing. How are you allocating that budget?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1K and I'm going to go to a video editing intern out of college. And I'm going to say, I'm paying you $20 an hour and I need 50 hours a month. And I need you to edit every little thing. And I'm going to have the cameras on every video. And we're going to give them every repository of a prospect, a customer meeting, the good, the bad, and ugly. And I'm going to say, we're going to build in public. Now make it a reality show. There you go. Show everybody everything.
Whoa.
That's it.
Whoa.
Live streaming 24/7.
That's your
Come
whole
see
budget.
what we're doing.
That's the whole budget.
Everything.
You're going all in.
Done. All in on that thing. Yep. Because the internet's free, right? We just got to build a website to host it on. And LinkedIn does a pretty good job. You could get a LinkedIn Live that streams 24/7 and just be open to the public and build.
Ooh, that's wild. Why do you think though, Steve? Like you share that, and it's like, well, why didn't I think of that? And yet, most companies not only are not doing that, but even I suspect after they hear you say this, most companies still will not make a bet like that. Why do you think that is?
People are afraid to show the truth, right? We don't want people to see our bad days. I recently started talking about how unprofitable title was at the end of it. Why? Because it was. And so why not talk about like what made it unprofitable, right? So other people could hear and go, man, I better not do that, right? Not growth at all costs. Holy shit, I can't overhire just because my clients are forcing me to. Like that's a bad idea. And so like I think showing people what your company's like without having to put like you walk into a bank, right? They're just going to be very professional. Well, that's what we expect from a bank. You walk to Chick-fil-A, pop, like it's an experience, right? And the experience that people are in B2B are creating, I feel, is the one that opens itself up and shows you everything and just says, this is who we are, the good, the bad, the ugly. Because people will say, thank God, right? And we've seen some of this happen. And then, then the layoffs happen and then people go, oh, I hate that company. And I say, well, yeah, that does suck, right? And then a week later, everybody forgets about it and moves on. And so like, who's going to tell an authentic story over time that threads itself where people go, I knew who that is, and I've seen something about them. And by the way, they're not hiding anything. And I know the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think that company, if they're paired with a good offering, is going to win the market. And then you're going to see that try to be replicated at scale. And I think what we're seeing is a renaissance where you look at every 10 to 15 years, trends dip in and out. Peg jeans, braided hair, blouses. Reality TV is back, my friends, but it's coming to you on the internet. So this is the 15th year since The Apprentice and Donald Trump. So it would only make sense that people are saying it's time for some more reality. We just need it in the tech sector where people can see that exciting startup business of chaos happening in real time.
That is pretty wild. That's pretty wild. I actually saw that Salesforce has something called Salesforce. Speaking of Salesforce Plus, right? This is ironically the company that founded Predictable Revenue. Now they're creating reality shows and getting people to subscribe.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think we're going to see an explosion in the next 5 years of creator-led content channels that are being backed by millions and millions and millions of dollars of VC money because people want that. And now we know it and companies are going to deliver on it now. They're going to say, I'd rather spend $30,000 a month on this than 2 SDRs, right? And they'll experiment with it and they'll probably miss big because they'll want to do a version of it that doesn't show everything. And I'll say the person who shows everything will win.
We'll win.
Everything.
We'll win.
Everything. Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, Steve, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat. We're moving on to the next question, which is 3, 3, and 3. Now, Steve, you've been asked to create demand for your client, for your brand fast. A lot of marketers find themselves in that place, especially as they approach the end of the quarter. So I'd love for you to answer this question in 3 ways. How would you create demand in 3 days, in 3 weeks, and in 3 months?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just going to say the easy thing is I think I'd go back to exactly what I said. I'd keep it on a lean budget. And I would say in 3 days, you can create the same demand. And in 3 months, it's going to be different. And then, 3 years later, like as long as you're using this, it allows you to do everything. And people talking is free, right? And this is what I'm saying is like, once you can deliver that content and where it's brief, people take little bite sizes of it, That's it. It's just a shortage of awareness. A lot of people on LinkedIn, for example, Balaji, know other people, right? Let's pick on, in a good way, Darren McKee. Love the guy, really positive guy, tons of followers, right? And has succeeded really in his professional career quite well.
Yes.
But if you ask me what he did, I have no idea. I have no idea what Darren does, but I'm very invested in him as a person, right? But if my brain fell dead center on his problem right away, I'm not going to think, oh, Darren McKee can solve me. I'm going to think, I got to go to Google, right? I got to go to TikTok, which is a better search engine than Google. And everybody knows that now, right? And I'm going to solve a problem. And then his name might come up, but at least because he's such a very broad poster, right? That I wouldn't know. Like once you dig one level below, you can know. But so as long as you let it know, like this is the problem we're trying to solve. We're not perfect at it right now, but watch us try to get better. And then what it does is it forces audience feedback, which is going to say, you're screwing this up. Do it this way. Have you ever thought about doing it this way? And I'll say, great, free advice. By people talking about what we're doing, and now we can test that over and over again and use R&D, which is all tax write-offable. Because anything in research and development, which is what I told Chris and the crew at Refine Labs, is I said, you are redefining the space as you now have a research and development offering with the bulb. Is it any coincidence that that is 100% able to be written off for taxes, or was that a happy accident? Because I would love to have an offering that everybody could write off if they bought it. And so there's going to be a lot of emphasis on research and development as we enter yet another golden era of innovation coming session.
Wow. Okay.
Deep thoughts, Balaji. Deep thoughts.
I like it, man. I like it. And you talked about, among other things, having the awareness of putting out content, chopping it into small, digestible pieces. And that makes me think of the different channels, TikTok being one that you are prevalent on. I dare say I'm putting money on the fact that you'll be the first to 1 million in terms of sales presenters on TikTok.
Oh, man, I appreciate it.
But I think every time a new channel comes out, our initial reaction is that, well, that's just for the kids, or business will never work on that channel. Instagram was the same way. Facebook was the same way. Why are you going all in on TikTok? Why are you so confident that it's going to be worth your while?
I am not confident. I am simply, it's a good question. I waited too long on LinkedIn, right? So, almost to 30,000 followers now. That's great. Well, if I had 150,000, I bet you our demand and our lead gen and our awareness would go better, right? And so for me, I'm looking at it just going, well, what's the max potential? And if I'm not there, what do I need to do to get there? And being an early adopter in TikTok, I don't have to look at John Barrows, who I respect the hell out of, and go, why do you have 150,000 followers? I'm never going to catch up to you. I want to be the person who gets to 1 million and says, now catch up to me, right? And good luck doing it. And also, quite honestly, I think it can be a very good community. And so far, so good. But I mean, I'm okay with the trolls coming out on TikTok, because usually on LinkedIn, it's not the spot for it. But I do tread lightly over there, right? Because I know that there's already been a couple instances where, people will come after you. You got to have a little bit of thick skin, because if you're willing to put yourself out there as a 45-year-old, Caucasian male in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, running a lead, it's as boring as it gets, right? Where I try and just spark the interest a little bit and say, the only diversity I can offer you is giving you what you didn't expect when you first saw me, right? Which is there. And so I have no production element. That's just me buying TikTok. I don't have any editing help, no help from my team. And I think I'm going to need it, though, to scale that, which is, 4 or 5 TikToks a day, every day, very much content pillarized, very much succinct on a monthly calendar about what we're talking about. And right now, it's just been testing all over the place, right? So very much in the testing and early stage there.
Interesting. Okay, so we're about to jump a little bit more. We're going to get some more insight into how your selling and marketing brain works. We're going to play this game called One Gotta Go. And I'm going to share 3 things with you. You got to get rid of one of them. You can't keep all 3. Got it?
Good. Love that.
All right. I'm going to throw a curveball at you right off the bat. It is Twitter, TikTok, Google. One gotta go.
Get rid of Twitter.
Twitter?
Too much passive aggressiveness. It's a good platform, but the fact that people are hiding behind a false cover-up makes it a very toxic platform, in my opinion.
But Elon's about to provide the verified blue checkmark for $8 a month.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for SpaceX to really take off too. So I guess I don't cross my fingers too much with Elon as he's piling up batteries and polluting the bottom of our oceans. So
fair enough. All right. Here's 3 more. Lead scoring,
Yeah.
lead
Yep.
nurturing, intent data.
Oh, lead scoring 1,000.
Body blow
Yeah.
for lead scoring. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like the lead scoring is very generalized, and I don't like, I like this idea of tiered accounts, right? But tier one, tier two, tier three, tier four, according to who and what, and when's the last time you've updated it, right? Because these companies are changing at rapid speed right now. So lead scoring, if it's dynamic versus static and sits in place, I wouldn't get rid of it. But I've yet to see a really good team in RevOps or demand who's come up with a nimble lead scoring methodology that they can actually explain.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Got it. How about this one, Steve? Case studies, white papers, ebooks. One got to go.
Oh, ebooks 1,000%. And I'll justify white papers here in a second. If you have a technical audience, you cannot avoid white papers, right? They're going to need to see it. Technical, right? I'm talking heavy design, technical infrastructure. That world cannot exist without them, and I know that for a fact. They're going to need spreadsheets, and diagrams, configurations, and statements of work. Where if you look at an ebook, I've downloaded some good ebooks lately. I just have never opened them up again
Oh.
because you download them with good intent, but you don't put the hour block to go digest it on it. So they just sit in my files of ebook I'll read later. There's one ebook I've read lately, and that's the Bridge Report, which is the SDR from 860 different CEOs with there's data. And because that's very applicable to my work, and it contains very good information. Now, if other ebooks had less subjective and more objective stances with data that's actually referenceable, besides just saying things, show me the data, and then I'm all in on your ebook, right? But don't show me a screenshot from 2008 and say that that's valid data. Like, show me the screenshot from your CRM on Friday when you hit publish on this thing, and then update that every Friday when you resend it out. And to me, that's a more of a dynamic ebook that changes, and it's just a document with the URL, and every week you're refreshing the data. Or if you really want to get my interest, and this is a tip for demand, come up with a dynamic ebook that changes with data in real time and is in sync with your CRM and shows the frequency modulation with your performance in real time. Then I'm subscribing to it. But nobody will do that because it's too much like reality TV, right, Balaji?
Man, if only that sounds phenomenal. Actually, that sounds really, really valuable, and that might be what Chris Walker might be trying to approximate with his new R&D offering, the Vault.
The Vault, yeah.
Vault. Interesting. Let me give you one more. Let's go one more. All right. You get three things. You got to get a real one. Marketing ops expertise. Performance marketing expertise. Customer insight expertise.
Marketing ops all day long. I think that's one of the most critical roles in an organization, is to actually operationalize marketing and give it this structure, because by nature, sellers and marketers are not operational people. And we need those people in place to operationalize that. I'm craving that position here. And so my head runs to that right away.
So which one of those are you going to get rid of? If you're keeping marketing ops, you've got performance marketing expertise and customer insight expertise. One of them you got to get rid of.
Yep. Performance marketing, because I would get rid of that one right away, because A, I know people who work in performance marketing hate working in performance marketing. And B, if something hasn't worked in 45 days, you're going to get shuffled to the B team and then the C team until you attrit and say, give me my refund or I'm going to write terrible things about your company.
All right. You heard it here first. You heard it from Chris. That was great. Chris. Okay. So Chris, we're going to play one more of these games before we get you on out of here. Really appreciate these insights.
Yeah.
What would it take for companies to market like a media company in 2023? A lot of the answers you've shared, I got to already say, you've said some stuff that I hadn't even thought about before, which I'm loving. But for companies that are willing to shift some budget and to put themselves out there, what would it take to market like a media company?
I think it's a real simple investment. It's literally this. It's a Canon camera or something of the like. It is a tripod, and it is sending these out to your team and say, start using this, start getting creative, and then having a weekly hour jam session where people can talk about it. And what you'd also see is some terrible content, some really funny content, and some stuff that gets you out of like the one person content. And something I strive for is like, my voice is currently one of the loudest in the company, right? And I know that for a fact, that by human nature alone, some people go, man, I can't stand that guy. And I'm like, I don't even care. Like, I'm to the point where I just go, okay, great. Like, just don't hurt my children. We'll be okay, right? Like, you don't need to like me necessarily. but by nature, people hate seeing the same person over and over again. Just like
Mm.
famous people are hated, right? Because you're famous, right? Or, well, my voice, as much as it resonates with some, completely acts like a magnet where it attracts some and it really turns away some. And I'm okay with that. But if we got 10, 12, 14 voices, too much like Ted with Refined Labs is such a different voice than Chris, and Megan's a different voice than Chris, and Jessica is a different voice than Chris. Amplify the voice of your people and give them the means to do it and train them how to do it, and they will not want to leave because you can give them a creative aspect to their day that they can't get anywhere else. And so you don't need to invest a lot. You've already invested in the people.
That's
Now
pretty
find out
cool.
who wants to get involved,
That's pretty
force a
cool.
little bit of it, and then
I
run
love
with it.
that.
And
I
just get
love
a
that,
good
Chris.
camera,
Steve.
teach them how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, I was just saying, get a good camera, give them some training, and then have them start recording,
That's
and
great.
just start there.
That's great. That's great. Steve, as we close, I want to find out if there are any reality shows. If you had to almost remix one of your favorite
Oh,
reality shows as a
yeah,
B2B show, which one would you model after?
Survivor Island. And I'm telling you right now, it's coming, and you might just see my face behind it. But there is this idea that if you took 10 entrepreneurs and I'll trick them into thinking they're going to get picked as one of the winner or not,
Yep.
but then you come to find out that it's simply the winner is the best idea, and the other 9 people now had to form a company around that idea. It would get very interesting very quick because now everybody is not the boss except for the one person whose idea it was, and they're going to have to learn how to play as a team when they typically don't operate very well as that. They're type A's, they're driven, and I think the show would be a complete clusterfuck, and it would be fun to watch because it's a hot mess.
I would be here for it with my Michael Jackson popcorn meme for
Yeah,
sure. I love that. Survivor Island. Yeah, I actually remember the very first Survivor. That was a watershed type show,
yeah.
and it paved the way for many others. Steve, this has been fun.
Little quick tip for you, Balaji. I was the third runner-up on Joe Millionaire. That was an old show
What?
here where the guy Evan rode the horse and won $1 million. He had to choose between the woman and the money. Like I was the third runner-up. Went to the psych test in LA. Like was ready to get
Whoa.
casted, and then they said instead we want to put you on a show called The Mask. And I declined showing up on that show because I didn't want to miss 3 months of work. And I ended up getting cast on to Eliminate, where I met my ex-wife.
No
And so,
way.
like, I have a little bit of experience in this whole reality TV show.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I'm talking to a celebrity. This is amazing.
Like a Z-list celebrity, but yeah, sure, I'm in there somewhere.
Yeah, well, you still got celebrity behind that letter, so we'll take that. That's pretty cool. I'll pick your brain some more about that because I'm fascinated about the psychology behind reality shows. So thank you for sharing that. Steve, we got to let you get back to selling. Folks, he is the CRO of Celex. He's closed over $200 million since 2020. He loves hip hop. He lives in South Dakota. You go figure. Mr. Steve Schmidt. Definitely follow him on TikTok and on LinkedIn. We appreciate you greatly, Steve.
Peace out, brother. Thank you so much, Balaji. Have a great evening.
This has been fun. I will see you on the next edition of Demand Wars.
All right.
Thank you, Steve.